All right, thank you guys. Welcome to our Major League Baseball video here today for Wednesday, I forget what the date is, but May 19th. Wednesday, May 19th. My name is Brock Page and I do sports picks for free right here on YouTube. If you want to see which one of these YouTube picks I'm actually betting on personally here today, don't forget to check me out on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage. Now, we're coming fresh off our second straight winning day in a row on my Patreon website yesterday. And that's going to put us at 4-0 in our last four $1.99 daily best plays on that Patreon page. And once again, if you want to access today's daily best play, it's only going to cost you just $1.99. We also improved to 7-3 with a push in our last 11 board member tier package picks on that Patreon site as well. And the good news is this: we have another board member tier package pick going off here tonight. We currently have over 1,205 members who are signed up and active on that site. And if you want to join those folks and get in on the action, link for that page is in the description section below. And once again, that's patreon.com/BrockPage. And with that, guys, pretty big slate here today, so let's get into it. We're going to start with the Rockies taking on the Padres, 4:10 Eastern first pitch. The San Diego Padres are minus 270, total 7.5 juice to the over. We got Joe Musgrove on the bump for San Diego, Chichi Gonzalez for Colorado. Now, Chichi comes into today's start with a 4.79 ERA and a 1.40 whip. Colorado's a league worst 2-16 straight up as the away team. They're taking on a Padres team who's 14-10 straight up at Petco Park, 9 games above 500 for the season. Their pitching staff leads the majors in strikeouts and fewest runs allowed. Joe Musgrove's punched out 59 batters in just 44 innings of work. He comes into today's start with a 2.86 ERA and a .95 whip. Now, total-wise, San Diego's 16-8 to the under on their home field. They also saw 6 out of their last 10 meetings with Colorado stay under the line. I'm going to lean toward the San Diego Padres minus 1.5 and the under 7.5 runs. Next game, Giants-Reds, 640 East. San Francisco's minus 120, totals 8.5. Kevin Gausman for the Giants, Wade Miley for Cincinnati. But despite Miley's success, since he's on a 2-game losing streak, and they also dropped 4 out of their last 6. Now, the Reds currently have a losing record thus far on the season, and their pitching staff is in the bottom 3 in runs allowed at home. They're taking on a Giants club who's 10 games above 500 right now, and they currently have sole possession of first place in the NL West. This Giants pitching staff is in the top 10 in fewest hits allowed, and they're giving up just 3.4 runs a game. Kevin Gausman's 3-0 on the year with a 1.84 ERA and a .84 whip. He struck out 59 batters in just over 53 innings pitched. When it comes to the total on this one, San Francisco saw 6 out of their last 10 with Cincy get over the number. Meanwhile, the Reds are currently 13-6 to the over at the Great American Ballpark. Give me the Giants minus 120 and the over 8.5. The next game, Marlins-Phillies, 7:05 Eastern start time. The Phils are minus $1.25, total 7.5. Zach Eflin for Philadelphia, Trevor Rogers for Miami. And despite the recent success of Trevor Rogers, this Marlins club has lost 7 out of their last 10. They play their worst baseball on the road. The Marlins have won just 10 of 24 road games this year. They strike out 10.5 times a game at the plate when they travel. They're taking on a Phillies club who's 14-6 straight up at Citizens Bank Park. And they allow just 3.6 runs per contest on their home field. Zach Eflin struck out 51 batters this season and has a 3.86 ERA. He also comes into today's start with a 1.17 whip. Now, total-wise, 4 out of Philadelphia's last 6 stayed under the total of 7.5 runs. Meanwhile, Miami's 23-18 to the under for the entire season. I'm going to lean toward the Philadelphia Phillies minus $1.25 and the under 7.5. Next game, Rays, O's, 7:05 Eastern first pitch. Baltimore is -120 at home, totals 8 runs. John Means for the O's, Ryan Yarbrough for Tampa. The Rays are on a 5-game winning streak. They scored 7 runs or more in 4 out of those 5 victories. Tampa's currently 13-7 straight up when they travel, and they're in the top 3 in the majors in road scoring. Mike Zunino has hit 10 home runs already, 20 RBI and 51 total bases. Meanwhile, Austin Meadows has 21 extra base hits, 25 RBI himself. They're taking on a Baltimore club who lost 8 out of their last 10. And as good as John Means has been this season here, the O's have gotten the W in just 6 of 22 home games. Now, when it comes to the number in this one, Baltimore's last 4 straight all got over the total of 8 runs. Meanwhile, Tampa's 14-6 of the over as the road team. I'm going to lean toward the Tampa Bay Rays plus $1 and the over 8 runs. Next ball game, Mets versus the Braves, 7:20 Eastern Standard Time. The Atlanta Braves are -185, total 7.5 juice to the over. Charlie Morton for Atlanta, David Peterson for New York. Now Peterson comes into the start here today with 41 strikeouts and just over 33 innings pitched. The Mets have won 7 out of their last 10 ball games, with 2 of those victories coming against this very Atlanta ball club. Now, in addition to being in first place in the NL East, this New York pitching staff leads the majors in fewest hits allowed per contest. They're taking on an Atlanta club who's won just 9 out of 22 home games. The Braves are currently 4 games below 500, and their pitching staff is in the bottom 10 in runs allowed. Charlie Morton's got a 5.08 ERA with 16 walks and a 1.44 whip. Now, total-wise, Atlanta's 15-7 to the over at Truist Park. New York's 12-9 to the over when they bat first. I'm going to lean toward the New York Mets plus 1.5 and the over 7.5 runs. Next ball game, Red Sox, Blue Jays, 7:37 Eastern start time. The Toronto Blue Jays are -1.25, totals 9.5. Ross Stripling for Toronto, Garrett Richards for Boston. Now, Richards is 3-2 with a 3.89 ERA and 38 strikeouts. The Red Sox are currently 12-6 straight up as the away team. They allow just 3.7 runs a game when they travel. They're taking on a Toronto club who's got Ross Stripling on the mound here today. The righty's 0-2 with a 5.91 ERA and a 1.69 whip. And when it comes to the number in this one, Toronto's 22-18 to the under for the entire season. Boston, on the other side, is nearly 70% to the under when they travel. Give me the Boston Red Sox plus 105 and the under 9.5. Next game, Nationals Cubs, 7:40 Eastern first pitch. Washington's -155, totals 9. Max Scherzer for the Nats, Jake Arrieta for Chicago. Arrieta's 4-3 thus far in the season. Chicago's currently 15-8 straight up in the friendly confines. The Cubbies are currently in the top 10 in home scoring. They're led by Chris Bryant, who's hit 10 home runs and knocked in 26. Now, the infielder is also in the top 5 in the league in OPS. He's got an OPS of 1.027. Meanwhile, Javi Baez has also hit 9 homers thus far in the season for Chicago and knocked in 27. They're taking on a Nats club who lost 7 out of their last 10. They currently find themselves in the cellar in the NL East. This Nats lineup averages just 3.8 runs a game. They've gotten the W in just 7 out of 19 road games. Now, total-wise, this number is particularly high on a Scherzer start. In my opinion, that certainly presents some value. The Nats are also 11-8 to the under when they travel, 25-13 to the under overall for the season. Meanwhile, the Cubs are 13-10 to the under on their home field. I'm going to lean toward the Chicago Cubs plus 1.5 and the under 9 runs. Next game, Pirates Cardinals, 7:45 Eastern start time. The St. Louis Cardinals are -220, total 7. Jack Flaherty for the Cards, Trevor Cahill for Pittsburgh. Cahill comes into today's start with a 1-4 record and a 5.97 ERA. The Pirates are currently 7 games below 500. They find themselves in last place in the NL Central. This Buccos lineup also ranks dead last in the league in scoring on average per contest. They're taking on a Cardinals club who's gone 13-8 at Busch Stadium, and they rank in the top 5 in the league in hits allowed per contest. Now, Jack Flaherty's a perfect 7-0 on the season with a 2.47 ERA and a .95 WHIP. When it comes to the scoring in this one, St. Louis is 14-7 to the under at Busch Stadium, 24-18 to the under for the entire season. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh is 16-6 to the under when they travel. I'm going to lean toward the St. Louis Cardinals -1.5 and the under 7 runs. Next game, Yankees Rangers, 8:05 Eastern Standard Time. The New York Yankees are -170, totals 9. Corey Kluber for the Yanks, Hyun-Jong Yang for the Rangers. Now, the Rangers have lost 7 out of their last 8. And they find themselves in last place in the AL West. His Ranger lineup is in the bottom 10 in home scoring, bottom 10 in striking out at the plate. Now, the Rangers are fanning nearly 10 times a game at the plate. They're taking on a Yankee club who has Corey Kluber on the bump here today. The righties 3-2 with a 3.48 ERA and 41 strikeouts. The Yankees have also won 7 out of their last 10, and they lead the majors in fewest walks allowed per 9. This Yankee pitching staff gives up 3.8 runs a game. That is it. Now, total-wise, New York's 24-18 to the under for the season. Texas saw 13 out of their 21 home games stay under the line themselves. Now, I'm going to lean toward the New York Yankees -170 and the under 9 runs. Next game, Indians-Angels, 8:07 Eastern first pitch. The LA Angels are -1.25, totals 8 runs. Shohei Ohtani on the bump for the Angels, Aaron Savali for Cleveland. Savali's 5-1 with a 3.40 ERA and a 1.06 WHIP. This Indians pitching staff is in the top 10 in road hits allowed, top 3 in road strikeouts. The Indians are striking out nearly 10 hitters a game when they travel. They're taking on an Angels club who lost 5 out of their last 7, and they currently find themselves 5 games below 500. And as good as Ohtani's looked on the bump this year, he's got just 1 win on the season, and he's also walked 20 batters in just over 25 innings of work. As a matter of fact, this Angel pitching staff gives up more runs than anybody in the league, and they're also dead last in the majors in walks per 9. Now, when it comes to the number in this one, LA's 13-6 to the over at Angel Stadium, 24-17 to the over for the entire year. Meanwhile, the Indians are 13-10 to the over when they travel themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Cleveland Indians +105 in the over 8 runs. Next ball game, Brewers, Royals, 8:10 Eastern start. The Milwaukee Brewers are -$1.85, total 7.5. Corbin Burns from Milwaukee, Brad Keller for Kansas City. Now, Keller's just 3-4 with a 6.75 ERA and a 1.86 WHIP. Kansas City's won just 9 of 21 at Kauffman Stadium this year, and their pitching staff is in the bottom 3 in runs allowed at home. They're taking on a Milwaukee club who leads the majors in fewest runs allowed on the road. They're giving up just 3.3 runs per contest away from home, and they're striking out nearly 11 batters a game in that same category. Corbin Burns comes into today's start with 58 strikeouts and just over 34 innings pitched. The righties also got a 1.57 ERA and a .64 WHIP. Now, total-wise, oddly enough, 2 out of Milwaukee's last 4 ball games did actually end up getting over the total of 7.5 runs. Meanwhile, the Royals are 12-9 to the over at Kauffman Stadium. I'm going to lean toward the Milwaukee Brewers -$1.85 in the over 7.5. Next matchup, Astros, A's, 9:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Houston Astros are -$1.20, totals 8.5 flat. Zach Greinke for Houston, Frankie Montas for Oakland. Now, Montas is 5-2 on the year with 39 strikeouts. The A's have also won 7 out of their last 10 ball games. They currently find themselves in first place in the AL West. Ramon Laureano has hit 10 homers and knocked in 20 for the A's. Meanwhile, Matt Olson's hit 10 home runs himself and knocked in 26. They're taking on a Houston squad who's played just 500 baseball on the road. Their pitching staff is also in the bottom 10 in road walks allowed. Zach Greinke comes into today's start with a lackluster 4.18 ERA. Now, total-wise, 11 out of Houston's 18 road games did get over the line, 26 and 16 of the over for the entire season. Meanwhile, the Athletics are 60% to the over as the home team. I'm going to lean toward the Oakland A's plus $1 and the over 8.5. Next ball game, Tigers versus the Mariners, 10:10 Eastern start time. The Seattle Mariners are minus $1.50, totals 8. Logan Gilbert for Seattle, Tarek Skubal for Detroit. But as bad as Skubal's looked here this year, Detroit's won their last 2 straight, and they also got the W in 7 out of their last 10. Wilson Ramos hit 6 home runs this year, along with 45 total bases. Meanwhile, Heimer Candelario is batting .291 with 4 homers and 15 ribbies. They're taking on a Mariner club who lost their last 2 straight, along with dropping 7 out of their last 10. This Mariner lineup has scored just 4 total runs in their last 3 ball games. Seattle is currently dead last in the majors in hits on average per contest. They're also averaging just 3.7 runs a game at home. Now, total-wise, Seattle's 14 and 9 to the under on their home field. Detroit's gone 25 and 17 to the under for the whole season. I'm going to lean toward the Detroit Tigers plus 1.5 and the under 8 runs. With that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup for the show. It is going to be Diamondbacks Dodgers, 10:10 Eastern first pitch. The Dodgers are minus 315, total 7.5. Clayton Kershaw for the Dodgers, Merrill Kelly for Arizona. Now, Kelly's just 2-4 in the year with a 5.24 ERA and a 1.46 WHIP. The Diamondbacks are currently on a 3-game losing streak, and they also lost 6 out of their last 7. Now, Arizona's playing their worst baseball on the road. They're in the bottom 10 in road runs allowed, and they picked up the W in just 9 of 25 ball games when they bat first. They're taking on a Dodger club who's 14 and 6 as the home team, and they currently lead the majors in fewest walks allowed at home. Clayton Kershaw is 6 and 3 on the year with a 3.20 ERA and a 1.01 WHIP. He struck out 57 batters in just over 50 innings pitched. Now, total-wise, LA's gone 60% to the over at Dodger Stadium, 23 and 19 to the over for the year. I'm going to lean toward the LA Dodgers minus 1.5 and the over 7.5 runs. And with that, now it's time for our quick pick recap, powered to you by my Patreon website. I like San Diego minus 1.5, under 7.5. San Francisco minus $1.20, over 8.5. Philadelphia minus $1.25, under 7.5. Tampa Bay plus $1, over 8 runs. New York Mets plus 1.5, over 7.5. Boston plus 105, under 9.5. Chicago Cubs plus 1.5, under 9 runs. St. Louis Cardinals minus 1.5, under 7. New York Yankees minus $1.70, under 9 runs. Cleveland plus 105, over 8. Milwaukee minus $1.85, over 7.5. Oakland plus $1, over 8.5 runs. Detroit plus 1.5, under 8 runs. And before I give you my next and final free pick for the video, one final reminder that we are 4-0 in our last 4 $1.99 daily best plays on my Patreon website. We're also 7-3 with a push in our last 11 board member tier package picks on that Patreon page as well. I'm going to lean toward the LA Dodgers minus 1.5 and the over 7.5 runs. And with that, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on Patreon. If you guys decide to get a package here today, just keep in mind, Patreon's going to bill you the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, happy Wednesday to you. Happy hump day to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.